Okay, hi everybody. We're going to get started. As Hannah said before, anyone who's just joined, can you put your name and your club and team that you are representing? That will help us with the minutes. And we are recording this call, so if you don't wish to be on the recording, just feel free to turn your camera off. Okay, so welcome to our 2024 captains training. This is hopefully going to help guide you through your responsibilities and roles as captains, or as temporary captains in the case of some people that are on the call. And hopefully by the end of it, you will be better informed into what your roles and responsibilities are. So feel free to take notes. We will have a copy of this recording available on our Moodle and on our toolkit resources, probably within the next couple of weeks, just because it takes a little bit of time for us to edit that recording. If you do have any questions, there will be an opportunity for you to ask those questions to us at the end of the training. As I said, we are recording it, so if you don't wish to have your camera on, then please turn it off. And please note, different to previous years and similar to what we've done in other officials training, there will be a Moodle test which we require every single captain to complete and pass. That is our way of making sure that you fully understood what you're required. Okay. So the point of today is to hopefully make sure that all of you are equipped in understanding what your responsibilities are, and we will look to hopefully provide you some training in knowing how to carry out your roles. We will also go through the BUCS Play system, which is the central system used for registering your teams, inputting your results, and basically what you are responsible to do as a captain. We'll show you a little bit later how to use the BUCS Play, how to manage your squad using team sheets, claiming back expenses, potential rearrangements, and potential playing under protests that you may come across during the course of this season. So before we start, I just want to let everyone in the room know we do have some key priorities for this year. If any of you have been in any induction meetings, you will have already heard this, but first, in terms of our priorities for the year, we want to really drive up the quality of sports provision, and a lot of that starts from within the actual sports club committees themselves. As captains or team representatives, you have a critical role to play in making sure that the communication you have with your members, the communication you have with us, with opposition teams, with officials is high quality. And so that's the purpose of having this training as well. Our other priorities are also making sure that we're delivering on the sports sub-strategy, of which BUCS is a central part to that. So as a university, we have an aspiration to become a top 25 UK institution within BUCS. Last year, we achieved our highest ever position. We finished 29th, breaking into the top 30 for the first time. And hopefully this year we will have another successful year. Even with fewer teams, we still are confident of cementing our top 30 position. We're also, other three things that we're looking at this year within the sports office is looking at developing a fair and sustainable funding model for sport. Sport is very expensive to run, but making sure that the membership model that we have within sports clubs is fair across the board. The fourth bit is about understanding more about our memberships. So we have reports around demographics for each of our sports clubs. If you're interested in knowing what the demographics are for your clubs, just reach out to myself and I can share with you the information from last year. And then finally, the last bit is about how we can all sort of work better together. So that could be one club supporting another club, or it could be working on relationships with similar sports clubs in the local community. Okay, so we're going to talk specifically about BUCS now. So if you want to compete in BUCS, essentially you need to make sure that you've got an account with BUCS Play. So BUCS Play is the hub for all BUCS sport. It's what our national governing body for student sport, BUCS, use for their leagues, knockout events, and also events. Every single individual that wants to be involved in participating in a team or entered into a national event or regional event, they must have a valid BUCS Play account. And we'll go through that in a sec, how to do that. In terms of the teams that compete in leagues and cup competitions, each team will have its own ID. And if you want to compete in any of those teams, you'll need to make sure that your specific individual account is registered to that team. So how other things that you need to do to also be able to play in BUCS, you will be required to have paid and settled any outstanding fees due to your club. So you need to have a club playing membership, and we will be checking who's on the team sheets and cross-checking that against playing a membership. So if you know that you are going to be playing a team or teams this year, please make sure that you have gone ahead and purchased your playing memberships. And as captains, you have a responsibility to make sure that everyone that you're selecting into your teams are also paid up and paid up members of your team. It's really important that we do that, because if someone is playing in your squads who hasn't paid their fees, then they will not be covered through our Essex Blades insurance, and that potentially could cause problems for you as well as the captain if you've selected individuals that are not insured to play. So there will be a link, obviously, when we send around the presentation. But if you haven't already, it's well worth downloading the BUCS Play app, or you can visit it on a desktop or laptop computer simply by visiting bucs.playways.com. And when you enter the web page, you will be required to set up a BUCS Play account if you don't have one, or use your old logins. Then you can search for your sport, and then search for your team, and then add yourself to the required team. There's also some requirements within BUCS for you to have individual memberships with national governing bodies, as we've got on the list there. American football, basketball, fencing are three that will require you to have an individual membership with your governing body. There are other ones as well, but we will advise you as captains if you are required to do any additional bits of information. So as it says, please don't leave it until the day to sort this out. For some national governing bodies, it takes a few days for them to process requests for new individual registrations. So in the case of Basketball England, they'll have thousands of teams with tens of thousands of people needing to register. So please don't leave it to the last day to try and get your registration sorted, because you might find that your players are ineligible to play that match. So talking about player eligibility, BUCS have a clear rule that for any English institutions, players must be 18 years or over. For Scottish institutions, they have an exemption. They can be 17 or older, just due to how their HE system works. You must be on a registered student with the University of Essex and must be studying at least 60 credits. Postgrad students can play in BUCS, but they must be studying no less than 50% of a full-time education. Not many people are aware of this, but if your student is on a term abroad or a year abroad, they are still eligible to play for a BUCS team, as are placement students. Unfortunately, Colchester Institute students are not deemed eligible to play for the university unless they have an @essex.ac.uk account, and that is purely because Colchester Institute is a separate entity. Although they don't affiliate to BUCS, they have the ability to affiliate if they so wish to in the future. And anyone who is in the University of Essex International College and foundation students are also eligible, providing they have an @essex.ac.uk email address. Okay, so next we've got BUCS points. BUCS points do differ slightly depending on the sport that you play in, but also they differ quite a lot depending on what tier or level of competition that you're playing. So how we get our overall university ranking, we essentially add up all the points that have been accumulated from the different sports teams and from one-off individual championships and events. They all get added to a university score, and then there's a league table which changes daily. It's updated every morning, which can be found on the BUCS website. And as you can see, last year we had 1,759.5 BUCS points and finished 29th in the UK league table out of 156 institutions. Really important for those that maybe haven't been captains before, we must make sure that we fulfill all of our BUCS matches. Even if we have a very weakened side, we absolutely cannot concede any matches. Conceding a match is basically a walkover, and giving away a walkover means that your team will, after the first walkover, lose half of any eligible points that you would have been able to achieve. And if you give 2 walkovers away, you will lose all BUCS points, i.e., you'll get 0 points for the university. If either of those scenarios happen, you will be called into the office to explain why that has happened. We've spent a lot of time and a lot of resource on trying to ensure that we fulfill all of our matches. Last year, we had our best ever year. We conceded 2 walkovers, I believe, by the end of the season, and they were due to some very good reasons. But yeah, we'll say this quite a lot through the training. If you are having any problems, if you foresee there being some potential issues, please let us know as soon as possible. Do not leave it until the day itself, and do not just not tell us and not turn up to matches, because that may result in disciplinary action taken against captains, but also against the teams. We spend hundreds of thousands of pounds in the BUCS program, and we do not want to be throwing away potential points within the league. So another thing that some people are a little bit unsure about, we do actually have an agreement with the university to ensure that anybody who is playing for the university, representing the university in BUCS, be it a league or a cup match or national championships, have the ability to be able to be excused from any scheduled classes that are scheduled on a Wednesday, be it Wednesday morning or Wednesday afternoon. The university is meant to try and avoid scheduling any lectures on a Wednesday afternoon. We are aware that there are sometimes some individual cases where that happens, and if you can let us know if you are scheduled into any classes on a Wednesday afternoon, that would be important for us to be able to raise that to the heads of the university to make sure that that is not a reoccurring occasion. So the previous Vice Chancellor was very clear with the academic registrar and the heads of departments that students should not have to choose between doing lectures and playing sport. And so, as I just said, if you are finding that you've got individuals that you're trying to select into teams who are not able to play because they've got a consistent lecture that's been put in on a Wednesday afternoon, please raise it with us so we can have a look at that. Unfortunately, the agreement only applies to undergrad. We've not been able to get the university to change it on postgrad. However, we will try and do everything we can to persuade the lecturers that are scheduling these classes on Wednesdays to move them to another day, or give you permission to be able to use Listen Again. Unfortunately, we are aware that sometimes there are laboratories and sometimes tests which are unavoidable, but all we ask is you get your members to let you know as a captain as soon as possible, far enough in advance, whether there is potentially going to be an issue, that we might be able to get the test moved, or as a captain you might be able to find alternative individuals to play in the squad. Okay, but please note, you will not be penalised for missing lectures, providing you complete this online form, which you can access through your My Essex portal. So now I'm going to pass you over to Hannah for some other bits.
Thanks, Dom. Okay, so I'm just going to sort of talk through BUCS Play, the various different functions that you guys as captains will use on BUCS Play, and sort of points of contact, etc. So your first point of contact for all your BUCS inquiries is sort of our Blades BUCS team. So you can reach us at that email there. So bucks@essex.ac.uk. You should also all be familiar with the Blades phone, the BUCS phone. You can send us WhatsApps on that. You should as well. We'll go through to talk about this a bit in a minute, but the WhatsApp group chat, captain's WhatsApp group chat, you should all be in that. So should have that phone number. So the BUCS administrators, so that's myself and Dom, we have admin rights on BUCS Play, so can manage BUCS teams and captains, as well as sort of authorising results, so confirming that they're correct on a Thursday. Fixture facility bookings, so any bookings, so for getting the fixtures booked in with, say, Leisure World, Essex Sport, whatever it may be, any amendments and cancellations as well. So we'll touch on this, but any changes to fixtures or any cancellations to fixtures must go through our team and the BUCS staff, so myself or Dom, rather than the captains. It's not okay for captains to think they can rearrange their fixtures and communicate with the opposition. We also sort out all the transport bookings. So whether you're travelling by train, by coach, whatever it may be, we organise that and then inform you of that in that captain's group chat. So for some sports, we sort of sort referee bookings. It's dependent on each sport, and we'll go through it a bit later on. But yeah, we sort some of that out. First aid arrangement as well, we sort that out, and then coordinate fixtures with the opposition, as I've discussed. And then we send out fixture confirmation. So every Thursday before the following Wednesday, you should receive a sort of a fixture confirmation that basically states the fixtures that will be played on that Wednesday. Please always do check it, because obviously if your fixture's not on there and you think you should be playing a fixture and it's on BUCS Play but not on that sheet, please do let us know, and just make sure that everything is all good on there. There'll also be a changing room allocation document in that email as well, so make sure if you do play outside and you're one of the sports that does use the pavilion changing rooms, then you do just check that changing room allocation sheet, because sometimes if we've got loads of fixtures here, we can't always enable clubs to access the changing room. So make sure, just check that actually your club has been allocated a changing room. If they haven't, obviously you need to inform the team to come changed and ready, because there's nowhere for them to get changed. And then lastly, we also sort out the competition team and individual entries for BUCS. Oh, sorry. Okay, so levels of access within BUCS Play then. So there are 4 main types of roles. So basically BUCS staff sit at the top of the chain, then BUCS administrators, so IAs, and they have administrative control over an institution. Then it's you guys, so captains, you obviously have administrative control over your team or potentially multiple teams. As well as you guys, perhaps your coaches or managers can also be put as that sort of admin access on BUCS Play. That is something that we manually have to do in terms of accepting your sort of entries as captain, or we have to appoint you as captain on BUCS Play, and we have been going through and doing it, so some of you should be able to see your teams on BUCS Play already. If you can't, please do let us know, and obviously come whenever the start of your fixtures, it's really important that you can see that team, because you need to be able to upload your team sheet, put your results in, everything like that. And then right at the bottom are the members, so they are all other BUCS Play users. They don't have any admin controls, so basically they're your participants and supporters. And then there's just a little URL link if you want to find out any more about each role, you can click there. Okay, so basically, what does your team need to know, and what do you need to get your team to do in order to sort of get them signed up to BUCS Play? So every single athlete who wishes to compete in a BUCS team must have a BUCS Play account and must join their team to make them eligible to participate. So basically, and if you've got the BUCS Play app, maybe it's good thing for you to sort of as I'm going to go through these sort of screenshots, it might be wise for you to have a little look on the BUCS Play app now, especially if you're a new captain this year. So a member of your team will obviously need to download the app. Then they'll be presented with that screen on the left-hand side. They'll have to search for the team they want to join. So, for instance, if it's Netball Women's 2, they'll search for that team of the sport. So they'll put in netball and then obviously the institution, which is Essex. They'll then click the Find the Teams function and then they should be able to join the team there. So as you can see at the bottom, that one's an example of Bournemouth, but you should have the Essex Blades logo come up and then they'll be able to join that team. You then click on it and then you click join the team. And then if they haven't done so already, they'll obviously need to log in and create an account. They'll just need to complete all the information, click continue, and then it is the captain's responsibility. So you'll have these admin rights to either approve their application and then move them into the squad. So we'll go through it in a bit more detail, but essentially you'll see a little screen that says sort of applied, eligible, squad, etc. Okay, so how do you guys become a captain on BUCS Play then? So as I said before, this is something that we have to approve. So you would download BUCS Play, go to search, select your sport from the communities list, and then obviously click the Find Sport Communities function, select the sport that you want to join. So for instance, basketball, you want to join basketball, you click join. You then log in or create the account if you hadn't done that already. Then you'd fill out your information and join. Then you'd have to wait for us to give you captain access. It might be worth just sending us an email or a WhatsApp just to say, I've applied, can you accept me? And we'll then sort it out. And then you will receive sort of an email confirmation from BUCS once that's all sorted out, just to say you have been made captain of whatever team it may be. Is it all making sense so far? Oh, yeah, sorry. Dom's just put a message in the chat. So when you register, please make sure you do need your university email address rather than any personal email addresses. So anyone registering for a BUCS Play account needs to register with their Essex email address. Cool. Okay, then. So joining the team, I think we've been through that, so we'll skip that one. Okay, so team hub. Okay, so once you've been granted sort of captain access, this is what you should sort of potentially be able to see. Or so basically you'll have the home screen. You can view obviously fixtures and then select your team sheets on here as well. So on that home tab, as you can see there's all the dates of your upcoming fixtures at the bottom. Obviously those dates are there, so you have like this one's showing 13th, 20th, 27th of October, but just check that's normally the Wednesday week, so it might be the case of if for whatever reason you're playing a fixture on a Thursday, that may change slightly. So just keep an eye on that. On that next tab, so if you can see at the top, the second one, so the squad one, to the right of it, that is where you will be able to remove players for the squad for the season. So you'll be able to add them into your squad and then remove them. They must be in the squad, so they must be able to be in that squad in order to be eligible for you to put them in the team sheet. If they're still in the applied section, you won't be able to put them in the team sheet. They must be in the squad already so that you can put them in the team sheet. On the fixtures tab, so the third one along, there will be that's where you see your fixtures, enter your results, and select the team sheet. So you'll select that ideally the day before. It must be done an hour before your fixture because the other team can essentially lock it. So we always advise by a Tuesday night, sort of make sure that sheet's in place. Say a Wednesday morning someone's ill, you can then change it, but only up to an hour before because they can sort of lock it. And then the results. So that's the final tab. That's where obviously you can see the results of all your fixtures. Yeah. So then how do you get to this screen essentially? So you would go to My Play, select the relevant sport community, scroll down to the team section, select your team, and that will open up this team hub for you. Okay, so viewing your fixtures then, so it's fairly simple. Again, just go to My Play, select your relevant sport community. Obviously, you must have joined the sport community first. Then you'll scroll down to the team section, select your team, click fixtures. You can see all the upcoming fixtures there. Okay, so viewing your league table. So if you want to sort of see how you've got on, how you're doing in the league, you'd go again to My Play, select the relevant sport community. Again, you must have joined it. Scroll down to the league section. Then you'll be able to see whatever league you're in. So if you're unsure of what league you're in, they should show up on your fixtures. So it might say BUCS Southeastern Tier 2, whatever it may be. Then you'd need to click on that league, have a look at it. And yeah, you'll be able to see it there. Sorry, Dom.
So I'll just take over whilst Hannah has a coughing fit. So basically, for viewing the knockouts, it's very similar to the leagues. My Play, find your sport, and then obviously find the relevant knockout. Just bear in mind, if you look at this on a desktop, sometimes it might not show the whole tree of fixtures, so you might need to scroll to the right or to the left if you want to know potentially who you're going to end up meeting in terms of your future cup fixtures. So next we have the squad versus team sheets. So as Hannah's already mentioned, it's really important that you select people into your squad that are actually going to be, you'll have a list of people in your squad, but you need to select from your squad into the team sheet. If you don't have your team sheet fully completed at least an hour before the start of your fixture, it is possible that the opposition can lock your team sheet so you have nobody there, and there are potential issues around not being able to play your fixture if people are not listed on your team sheet. If you do have a situation where you go to an away match, for instance, and you suspect that there are individuals that are not on the team sheet that are looking to play, you at the start of every match, it's important the two captains come together and actually do a proper check of who's there and making sure that those individuals are registered. We mentioned it a little bit earlier. For some sports, there are requirements for individuals to also be registered to the national governing body. And that is the point when you would check to make sure those individuals are not only on the team sheet, but also registered to the national governing body. You won't be too surprised that there are, especially at the start of the season, there's likely to be people that haven't registered and haven't followed the rules. So that's why it's really important that we do it so that we can be confident when we check out other institutions' team sheets that they've also followed the rules. You okay, Hannah, to come back?
Yeah,
Cool, I'll pass you back.
Sorry about that. Okay. So viewing knockouts then, so similar to sort of viewing the league function, you'd do the same sort of thing, but instead of selecting leagues, you'd select your knockout competition. So whether that be the Conference Cup, whether that be the National Trophy, you'd select that on there. And then there's a little star icon in the bottom right hand corner, as you can see there. If you click that star icon, it will sort of then show on your main page and you'll be able to see that every time that you go in. Okay, so squads versus team sheets then. So as it says there, squad management is typically a one-off task at the start of the season. So although you can add new players to your team during the season, so for instance, if one player's moved from the first team, from the second team to the first team, sorry, you can add them in there. But essentially, as I said before, they all need to be in your squad in order for you to put them in your team sheet. So if say for instance it's a Tuesday morning, we contact you saying you haven't uploaded your team sheet and you're saying yes I have, they're all in the squad. That'll be why, because they're in the squad and not actually on that team sheet. So you will need to sort of select them for every fixture throughout the season from that squad, and then they'll go into the team sheet. Okay, so squad management on the app then. So how to sort of approve players into your squad, etc. So you go to My Play, obviously, again, select the relevant sport community, scroll down to the team section. You'll then select your team to open up on the team hub. Go to that squad tab, click who's applied. So as you'll be able to see there, so you're under the squad tab, you can see in the squad, applied, eligible, and not eligible. So you'll click on who's applied. You'll then tick the checkbox to select your teammates if you want to move them into the squad, and then you'll click to add them to the squad. So obviously that will then add them to the squad, not the team sheet. But then from them being in the squad, you'll obviously be able to put them into the team sheet. So it's a really good idea before all of your fixtures, and probably sometime this week if you've got fixtures next Wednesday, that you go through, make sure everyone's applied, they're in your squad, and then so on Wednesday morning, or whenever your first fixture is, you can go in and upload that team sheet easily, and it's not a last minute rush. Okay, so team sheet selection then. So essentially, BUCS Play will not automatically calculate when a player has established a normal team and when they can no longer play down a team. So BUCS have some strict sort of rules and regulations regarding this. So once a player has played them, sorry, Tom, can you just...
Okay, so once a player has played 50% or more of the scheduled league fixtures, then you will be team tied. So you essentially, in the case of, say, football, where we have 5 teams, if you have, most teams will have at around 10 fixtures scheduled for the start of the year. Some teams may have slightly fewer fixtures. So you need to work out, if you had 10 fixtures, once someone has played 5 matches, they or are on the squad for 5, they will not be able to play below that, the lowest level that they've played. So yeah, just bear that in mind. Often it's not until around Christmas time that people become team tied. The other important thing to note is that your cup matches do not count as part of the setting, so it is purely just the league fixtures by themselves. With the cup, it's treated separately, and that is 50% of the scheduled cup fixtures. So if you go in at last 16, you've potentially got last 16, quarterfinals, semi-finals, and finals. So there are 4 rounds. Once you have played, say, in the first team for 2 of those rounds, you will be restricted in what you can play for the second team. So just bear that in mind if you are strategically selecting teams. It is obviously at the start of the year understandable that there may be quite a bit of movement within the squads, but just bear in mind that the team sheets will be available for everyone to see, and so don't think that you can hide an individual player, playing them down later on in the year to help lower teams. Just try and make sure that you are establishing a fair process in terms of selecting your teams. So in terms of team selection on the BUCS Play app, you would go to your relevant sport community, scroll down to the teams that you to the actual team section, and you can find your team on the team hub. Go to the fixtures and then select your team next to the relevant fixture and click pending or available, so that for you as an individual. Then tick the checkbox to select your teammates if you're the captain. So you at this point you've got your squad. Select the ones that you want in your team, and then once you've selected, you essentially complete at that point. So you okay? Yeah.
Apologies about that. Have you spoke through this slide, Dom? Right. Okay. So team sheet selection then. So as sort of myself and Dom have discussed, so in order to put them into your team sheet, you would go into the team hub again, find them from the fixtures tab. So in the fixtures tab, and then you would click the select team sheet for the relevant fixture. You would click on pending or available, and tick the check boxes to select your teammates. After that, you would then, once they've all selected and you've pressed select at the bottom of the screen, they're all good on your, and they've been put into your team sheets. You can then make any changes, as I said, up until the team sheet is either approved or disputed. Okay, so how do you approve or dispute a team sheet then? So it will only open an hour before the fixture start time. So for instance, if your fixture's due to start at 1, you'll only be able to see this from 12 o'clock. You find the fixture in the BUCS Play app, click onto the fixture, go to the team sheets, and then either approve if you're happy. As Dom said, at early on in the season, there can be a few issues. So just do make sure that everything looks good, you're happy, and then approve the team sheets. As it says there, you need to check in line with Reg 11.2 with the opposition captain. Once you've done that, you can then either dispute the team sheet if it doesn't meet the requirements, or if you're happy and it meets the requirements, you can then approve it. If you aren't happy and you do dispute it, you will need to complete a playing under protest form. We'll go on to talk a little bit more about playing under protest forms in a little bit. But essentially, if there is an issue with the team sheet, that's one of the reasons as to why you would complete a BUCS playing under protest form. And if you obviously do dispute that team sheet, you do need to do it. Okay, so paper team sheets then. So under exceptional circumstances, for instance, if you have no signal, you're unable to approve or dispute a team sheet on BUCS Play, the captain then must complete a paper team sheet. So we will be giving you your captain's packs. Some information will be coming out regarding this week, but basically they will be in your captain's packs. Obviously, they're a physical piece of paper. And it's really important that they're signed by both teams before the start of the game. So basically, you just put a list of your players in, fixture information, both captains should sign it. And as we sort of say, you should always carry 2 copies on you at all times, and these will be in your captain's packs, should anything go wrong. After the match, when you've got signal back, say your phone's got battery back or whatever it may be, you must then upload the score sheet to the BUCS Play still using the upload match card feature by going to that fixtures bit and then clicking on the scorecard tab. The team sheet must then be completed on BUCS Play digitally after the match to avoid any potential penalties from BUCS. Entering results then. So team captains must enter results on BUCS Play immediately after the competition or the fixtures finish. Please don't go to Fed before you've submitted your result. There is a note and a BUCS reg that sort of states that all league and knockout competition matches must be recorded on BUCS Play no later than 12 p.m. the following working day of the fixture. So if you had any issues with your fixture, if you played under protest, or say, for instance, you can't submit your result in anything, please get in touch with us, either by that BUCS email or on the Blaze phone, and we'll be able to support you enter the result or put in the playing under protest appeal to BUCS. So if you completed a paper team sheet or score sheet, and we'll talk a little bit about it in a minute, the score sheets, please hand these into SU reception on Square 3 the next working day. Okay, so how to actually enter your results then. So again, on BUCS Play, you'll find the fixture. Go into the fixture, you'll go to scorecard, you'll put in the result. You'll have to enter the score for the home and away team. You then enter any additional information. So, for instance, if you enter tries in rugby, you'd put these in, who scored them, etc. Click save, and then review the result and edit it if needed to. And then we will go through on the Thursday and approve the result if everything's good. And then there's just a note there that for any racket sports, the team sheet must be completed beforehand, in order for the players to select, in order for the players to be selectable so they can complete individual results. So for badminton, table tennis, squash, etc. I'm just going to pass back over to Dom, who's going to go through racket sport result entry.
Yeah, thanks, Hannah. So as Hannah's already mentioned, there are some sports that require additional individual competitor scores as well as the overall team score. And in some sports such as rugby, which we'll come on to in a bit, that can have an impact on how many points you actually get in your league, like bonus points. So with the racket sports, Hannah's already mentioned, but before you start your match, you need to put in the actual names of the players in the order that they are in terms of rankings. So at the start of each year, racket sports will be required, especially squash and table tennis and tennis, I believe, the ones that require an actual player ranking. So that determines the order of play, and there's BUCS rules that state what order that needs to go in. So to do that, once you've done that, and then you want to put the result entry in, you obviously complete your team sheet as you would do before, approve or dispute that team sheet, go to your relevant fixture, click on the scorecard, and then where it might say player one, for instance, you might then put whoever your player one is. Don't worry if you don't know the actual names of the opposition. The main thing is that you put in your side of the of who was playing, and then make sure you've updated the players, and then go in there and put in the individual scores for each of the games or sets that you've played. If you fail to complete this fully, it won't upload properly, and you potentially will be missing out on bonus points. In the case of squash, you actually get points for every point scored. It's a little bit different. It's not just 3 points for a win and 1 point for a draw. It's very, very different. So don't miss out on potential points there. If you have any questions or you're not sure about it, just feel free to give us a call on the day, or if you've got a paper copy of it, you can't seem to add it onto the app, send us a screenshot of the information and we will help you. So on the app itself, player stats. So as I said, find the fixture, click on the fixture and go to the scorecard, select the relevant team, and then you should be able to navigate your way to be able to input each relevant stat. So every single sport has the ability to add additional stats, and there are like national rankings. So if you're football, and you know who the goal scorers were, or you know who assisted the goal scorers, you can also put things like who got yellow cards, red cards. There's, funny enough, not many teams put down who had yellow cards and red cards, but yeah, there's a lot of stats that goes behind the BUCS play system as well, which is quite interesting if you like stats. So it's fairly easy to do on the app, and also the same for the desktop. So I would encourage you to try and start the season how you mean to go on. So try and get all the stats if you've got them. If you don't have them, it's not the end of the world, as long as you've filled out the essential bits that require that are going to get you extra points. So as I said, yeah, it's for tennis, squash, badminton, and table tennis. They are slightly different to standard sports because of the way that they have a scoring system. But yeah, if you have any questions, I appreciate the majority of you in the room this doesn't apply to. So if you are one of those sports clubs and you're struggling how to use it, just come back to us, and we'll guide you through how to do that. Cool. Captain's packs, Hannah.
Sorry. Okay, awesome. So all captains will essentially receive a captain's pack. We'll communicate to you when these need to be sort of collected, or we might in fact give them out to you at Freshers Fair on Friday. But essentially, these will include your specific sport regulations. They'll include playing under protest forms. They'll include paper team sheets. They'll include serious accident and emergency procedure sort of form and guide. They will include a paper copy of the accident and incident report form, a concussion recognition tool guide, and then for racket sports, they'll include score sheets as well. We advise that you do carry these captain's packs with you to all fixtures, so they'll come in sort of a waterproof sort of envelope, and if you can take them to all fixtures, that is basically essential, because obviously if you get there, you realise you want to play under protest, but you haven't got the form, you can't do that. So please do take these with you to all of the fixtures, home or away, whatever it may be. Okay, so the next slide then. So captain's match day checklist. So basically just a little list of what you guys need to do on match day. So obviously you'll have needed to add any new players to your squad on BUCS Play. You'll need to complete your team sheet. You'll need to obviously attend your fixture, so go to the fixture venue, approve or dispute the opponent's team sheet before the fixture starts. Obviously then play your fixture, hopefully you'll win, and then submit your result. So if it's a racket sport as well, you need to complete that score sheet, and then enter your player stats as Dom sort of discussed and went through, and then celebrate any results at Fed. And then the next day you need to return any forms to SU reception, whether that be score sheets, accident incident report forms, whatever that may be, you need to do that the next day. Next slide. So just talking a bit about kit then. So obviously all of you should be aware that kit needs to be collected from SU meeting room 1 tomorrow. So you should have received an email about the schedule, and you would have filled in your name as to when you want to come and collect the kit. SU meeting room 1 is right at the back of the greenhouse, through the back. It's a black door on the right hand side. Make sure you go through that door, and then there's another door that you need to go through, which we'll prop open or something, and you'll come in and collect that kit. We are going to ask that you go out of meeting room 1 the other end as well, just to sort of not have too much traffic going through the greenhouse throughout the day. But the kit has been stored in large plastic boxes, and obviously if you've got home and away kit, that's basically 2 plastic boxes in some instances, so make sure you bring enough people to be able to carry it. I don't think anyone's going to be able to carry 2 of the boxes, so just make sure, whether you bring your friends, another committee member, player, whatever it may be, just make sure enough people are coming to collect that kit. The kit has all been counted, and we will share an inventory of what is actually there and what we've given back to you. So when it comes to sort of after Derby Day and we're asking for the kit back, you know what you've had and you know what you need to return. Please make sure this kit is returned back to us at the end of the season after Derby Day. The club will be charged for any missing kit, so please make sure that your players do return the kit. I think it's probably a good idea if you sort of give that kit out at the match and ask for it back at the match, because quite often, we see people walk around campus in blade shorts when really they're not their shorts. They're actually the university and Essex Sport pay for all the kit. And we do need to reuse it year on year. So obviously it's not sustainable if every year we're missing half the kit and we're having to purchase that again. Obviously it's just not financially doable at all. And so we do need to make sure that this kit is returned. This year we had quite an issue with it, and quite a lot of teams had quite a lot of kit missing. So it's really, really important that the players are aware that's not their kit to take home, and they must return it. Also another note, if any kit is damaged, the club will be expected to pay for this. So for instance, cutting your socks, if anyone's thinking of cutting the socks, they will need to pay for this. So if you've got essentially, I don't know, a load of rugby boys that want to cut their socks, they will need to then, what we can do is set up a ticket on the website where they can go and pay for essentially their own pair of socks. They've then paid the £6.50 for the socks. They're free to do what they want with them. If they then cut them, obviously, and then at the end of the year, we're saying to the rugby club, right, you need to pay however much because cut the socks, that money's then in their account and ready to do that rather than it just coming out of the club funds. Um, the kit isn't cheap, so obviously if you're sort of thinking, if people are thinking, oh, never mind, the club can just pay for any missing kit, the kit is not cheap and it definitely does quickly add up, especially if you've got short socks, shirts, shorts, whatever else, or sort of different garments. It isn't cheap, so please make sure it's undamaged and accounted for at the end of the year. This is a captain's responsibility, so at the end of the year when we're sort of chasing you guys, please, please, please just do make sure you've kept an eye on it and make sure all the kit has been returned. And if you want to do some sort of washing of the kit, we do have laundry cards that you can use. So they're loaded up with money. So we do have those that you can come to us, ask for a laundry card. We'll sort of give one to you, and you can use that to wash your kit. If you do want one, just let us know, and we can give you one of those. Okay, so next slide is about equipment storage then. So obviously we're aware that some of you guys share storage spaces with other clubs. Please just be mindful that you're not the only club in some instances using that storage space, and so please do keep your equipment stored safely and correctly. Please ensure they're always locked after use. So obviously there's quite a lot of different clubs potentially some different clubs equipment in there, so please just do make sure that it's always locked. We are aware and the pavilion is definitely in need of some desperate sorting out. So can we just ask at this point that any clubs that do use the pavilion storage space, that you set a bit of time aside to go in and sort of your stuff out, and make sure it's stored correctly, because at the minute there's sort of not even anywhere to walk in there. So, and that really isn't ideal for all the clubs using that space. So if you do use the pavilion and you can go in there and sort out your stuff, that would be fantastic. The next thing then is just about WhatsApp groups. So hopefully most of you are in the WhatsApp group. If you're not, I've just sent a link in the chat to join it. It's really important that you are in this. It's where we share important information about fixtures, so travel arrangements for the next week, etc. So please, please, please do make sure that you're in this. If you've got a vice captain, they need to be in it as well, because it's a sort of quite a big communication channels for us. So please join it if you haven't done so already. And then the last thing before I pass back over to Dom is just about rearranging fixtures. Any issues with fixtures. So as I briefly mentioned, if you see a problem fielding a team for a particular fixture, please let us know as far as in advance as possible. We can then see if we can move that fixture or if there's anything that we can do. The more notice you give us, the more chance we'll be able to move and sort something out and speak to the opposition. Some opposition we have quite good relationships with, so can sort of have a chat with them and come to an agreement, but we can't do this obviously unless you inform us. You can contact us via anything on the Blades phone or via the BUCS email address. It's not possible really to move fixtures less than 48 hours before. And any fixture changes must go through BUCS administrators, for both institutions. So either myself or and sort of the other institution, that must be accepted by us and then changed on BUCS Play by us as well. And this is really, really, really important. Please, 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 under any circumstance, do not contact the opposition to make any changes. So if you want to move your netball fixture, for instance, please do not contact them via Instagram and agree to move a fixture, okay? This causes so many problems because obviously facility-wise, referee-wise, everything, it's an absolute nightmare. So under no circumstances are you to sort of contact another institution, agree to move a fixture. If another institution contacts you and says via Instagram or whatever else it may be and say, oh, we've got a fixture away to you, we want to move the time, blah, 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 signpost them to their institution administrator and just say they need to go through their institution IA to make any changes. And then you probably best just to let us know as well and just to sort of say, right, I've received this from You can send a screenshot or whatever, just say I've received this, and then I can potentially get in touch with the institution just to make sure that everybody's on the same page. Cool. So I'm just going to pass back over to Dom.
Okay, so now we're going to go through the what happens if there is a situation that you're not happy with at a match, and this is where the playing under protest form comes in. So, BUCS regulation 12.1. Not 1 1. 12.1 of the rules and regs states that if a team feels upon arrival or during a fixture that the conditions do not adhere to those outlined in the BUCS regulations or fixture confirmation, then they should complete a playing under protest form or equivalent as soon as this grievance is noted. So if you turn up at a match and, for instance, let's have football. You weren't informed beforehand that the match was going to be played on an Astro pitch, and as a result, obviously, you maybe have players who haven't got the appropriate footwear. Then you can complete an appeal and a plan under protest, and obviously let us know, because it's possible that they haven't followed the regulations. If you turn up and you suspect that there's something that's not quite right, if in doubt, fill out a plan under protest form. The most important thing to note with a plan under protest form is that you must fill it out straight away, and you must ensure that the opposition has signed it. An opposition captain cannot refuse to sign the form. By signing it, they are not saying that they agree with what you are saying. They have an opportunity on the form themselves to state their opposing case. And just note, if you as a captain have been asked to sign a playing under protest form from an opposition, you do need to sign it. Otherwise, you will be in breach of a walkover for failing to sign the form. When you are filling out the form, obviously give us a call if you have any concerns or issues, because we can help find the relevant regulations that may have been broken. But it is important on the form that we are being clear and concise with what we believe the breach has been, and that we clearly list on the form what the regulation is that has been broken. It is possible that an institution has broken more than one regulation. There are a lot of regulations in BUCS, but it is important that we can only put an appeal in if we can clearly identify a specific BUCS regulation that has been broken. BUCS have two types of regulations. They have the general BUCS regulations, which will start REG and then the numbers, or they might have a sports specific regulation. As well as knowing about the general regulations, I would encourage every single captain to read your own sports specific regulations. So when you go on the website onto bucs.org.uk, you can hover over the regulations, and then there'll be sports specific regulations. We will, in your captain's pack, make sure that you have a copy of your own sports specific regulations. So when you get your captain's pack, please make sure you read them. Don't just assume the regulations are the same as last year, as there are a number of regulations that have changed from last year to this year. So as I've said, completing a playing under protest form, each captain's pack will have a physical copy of the playing under protest form. It is important that you do fill out all the details correctly, and that includes the date and time of when that form has been filled out. If you have started the match and then suddenly something happens, maybe a player's been brought on that you don't believe has been put onto the team sheet, you can ask the referee to see when there's an available opportunity to stop the match, and then that's when you will get the opposing captain, to complete the playing under protest form if you have an issue with what's going on. As it says, neither captain can refuse to sign the form, and 12.3.2.1 clearly says that refusal to sign may result in a misconduct charge being placed against the institution, and an appropriate disciplinary action may be taken. So fill out the form, state all the rules and regs that have been broken. Give us a call if you are having to fill one of these forms out. It doesn't happen that often, but we can be very helpful. Each captain must initial a next to each regulation that either believes has been broken, and then the opposition has the opportunity to also write a statement. As soon as that's completed, please make sure you send it to us as soon as possible, as there's only a limited amount of time for us to be able to submit that appeal. So when making the appeal, you've filled out the player under protest form, you've completed it. Please make sure you send it across to us. If we do not receive the form by 11 a.m. on the Thursday for Wednesday fixtures, or 11 a.m. on the Monday, it's likely that we will not be able to do anything about the appeal. The plan under protest form itself doesn't mean that we are necessarily going to carry forward with the dispute. We will look at it in the office. We would make a judgment based on what the appeal was and what the outcome of the match was, and whether it had any meaningful implication on the outcome of the result. What we don't want to do as an institution is keep putting appeals in against other universities. There's a little bit of leeway with sometimes these rules are quite strict and they're quite hard to adhere to. We don't want to be known as the institution that always puts appeals in. But if we feel it has had a meaningful impact on the result, or they have done something quite serious, then we will proceed with following through with the dispute to BUCS and ask BUCS to resolve the situation. So we have, as it says at the bottom here, we have until 5 p.m. the next working day to be able to officially submit our dispute to BUCS. And then usually what happens is the opposition has a further 24 hours to submit their response to our initial appeal. So sometimes you may be contacted by us if we've received a notification from BUCS that an opposition team has submitted an appeal. They are meant to let each admin is meant to let each other know prior to submitting the appeal to BUCS. So you may get calls from us on the Thursday or the Monday regarding any issues that may or may not have happened. Just be honest with us. There's no point not telling the full truth, because it will eventually come out when we go through disciplinary procedures. So I mentioned at the very start, walkovers. A walkover is essentially occurs when a team concedes or forfeits a fixture to another team, i.e. they do not attend the fixture and hand the win to the opposition by default. There are two types of walkovers. There is a voluntary walkover, which is where things were within your control to be able to play the match or not, and an involuntary walkover where it may be that something was deemed out of your control in not being able to fulfill that fixture. We'll come on to that in a second. So there are some other examples here. So a team can claim a walkover if the opposition cancels the fixture within 48 hours of the original fixture date, unless it was cancelled for one of the following reasons, which could be bad weather, ground conditions, or other extenuating circumstances, which is deemed force majeure. If the fixture is cancelled for one of the above reasons, then this will be classed as a postponed match rather than a walkover, and we will look to replay the match at a later date. So, as it's highlighted, we must put teams out for all of our fixtures, even if we are fielding a minimum squad and we know we're going to lose the match. It is better to lose the match by a heavy defeat than to concede a walkover. There are further issues with voluntary walkovers. So a voluntary walkover isn't just about not fulfilling the match. It could also be where a team may have been proven to have fielded an ineligible player. You may have failed to fulfill the match, the conditions of the match. You may be wearing the wrong kit. So when we schedule the fixtures, we are required to let the opposition know what colour kit we are wearing. In sports such as football and rugby, it is the responsibility of the home team to change their kit colour if there is a kit clash. If we book a facility that doesn't meet the regulations, then we could potentially lose a walkover for knowingly booking the wrong regulation courts. If you have players that are not affiliated to national governing bodies. So in the case of basketball or fencing, if it's proven that they played and they weren't affiliated at the time, then you can concede a walkover there. And also with officials, depending on the league or cup that you are competing in, and depending on the round of the cup, there are certain requirements on what grade official you are required to have. So we do help you out by looking to book for majority of sports. We look to try and book the officials or help you out. Please don't just assume you can use someone that you know, because they might not meet the regulations. Some officials need to be neutral, i.e. they can't be your coach, or someone who's got a direct relationship with your team. So aside from points, walkovers are not good for a university, because they can often come with quite severe financial penalties. So we've mentioned about losing 1 point or sorry, half your points or all your points for one or two walkovers. This will obviously have an impact on our university ranking. The fines can be as much as £750 per walkover in the case of Premier League matches. It can affect your club standards, and it can subsequently affect any potential involvement in BUCS for future teams. So we have removed teams in the past that have conceded walkovers from the future BUCS competitions. So please work with us to do everything possible to avoid walkovers where you can. So as with BUCS, there'll be quite a few of you requiring claiming back expenses. Any expense incurred related to your BUCS match may be reclaimed, providing this was approved by us initially. So for this year, we have a new software system called Expense In, and any students that are looking to claim an expense will need to register an account, which we can help set up for you. There's a type form if you go onto our sports web pages, on the toolkit. There's a type form for you to be able to have an account created. Once you've created an account, you'll then be able to start claiming back for any expenses that have been valid and are relevant to BUCS. So what can you claim expenses for? For train travel, we will usually book the train ticket for you, but often that train ticket may, if you're competing in central London, it may only get you to Stratford or to London Liverpool Street. The underground travel part, you may be asked, or individuals may be asked to pay for that initially, and then you can reclaim that back. Often that is cheaper than us getting a full day card. Bus travel, crucially, this is bus travel from the other end, from the end situation. We just cannot afford to pay for people to get buses from the university to the train station. The nearest train station is within walking distance of the university, which is the Hythe. So please be clear with us when you are looking to get the train, which station that is coming from. Often we will book it from the Hythe station near Tesco's, just because it's closer. Accommodation, in very, very rare situations, there may be the requirement for accommodation. If you are a team that's playing in a national competition and you have perhaps a cup match in Scotland, then clearly you're not going to travel there and back in a day. Our policy has changed on transport, on accommodation. It is only if your team is required to have left before 6:30 in the morning that we will consider accommodation as an option. Okay. And then officials payments. We know that a lot of our officials are booked through YesRef, and we have an account through that, and we pay them directly through invoicing. But if you are a sports club that have and you need to pay an official in cash, please make sure you get a receipt and then upload that receipt to be able to reclaim your costs. So with transports, we are undergoing a bit of a budget cut for this year, and we are looking to try and save as much money as possible for teams, so we can avoid having to charge students any more money. Often traveling by car is the most cost-effective way to get to fixtures. If you do have individuals in your club who are able to drive or willing to drive, we would encourage that. It's important to note they don't need to be in your team. If there's someone that's a member of your club or even not a member of your club who's willing to use their vehicle to get your team to your matches, that's absolutely fine, and we will support that and we will refund that individual, providing we've received their copy of their driving license and insurance certificate. Trains, I've said we will look to provide the train tickets. We have a business account with Trainline, so and often can get discounted tickets. So so please don't book your own train tickets. Please contact us and we can book them on your behalf. And then if you do require external hired minibuses or coaches, please don't book this yourself. Please liaise with Hannah. We have a relationship with Roman coaches and local transport firms to be able to arrange this for you. Um, we will not be paying for anybody's transport that hasn't previously been agreed with us. If we book your team onto a coach and individual players choose to take their own cars, they will not get that transport back because we've provided an alternative means of transport. So please liaise with us. With the car travel, for those that are not aware, you can claim up to 45p per mile on the basis that you are traveling with 4 passengers. It's 25p for one person plus an additional 5p for every additional passenger. But please note they do need to be on the team sheet to count as part of that. If you choose to take spectators with you, we're not going to be paying the full rate just because you've taken spectators. And as I've said already, if you are claiming back for car travel, we do require a copy of your driving license, card, front and back, and just a valid insurance document for the vehicle that you are using. So, as I've said, trains, we will book train tickets for your teams. Please make sure that you give us advance notice of how many people are going. So we make sure that we are not purchasing like needlessly purchasing additional tickets that aren't needed. Um, when we do the booking, we will put the captain's email into the system and you will get a confirmation email with a reference number. When you go to the train station, you will simply put in any card with a chip on it just to activate the machine and then type in the reference number. You won't be charged because we'll have already paid for it on the business account, and then the machine will give you your tickets for your journey. If you have to have a change to the number of people traveling, please let us know. But please note there may be an admin charge if that results in an additional admin fee for us. So please try and be accurate when letting us know how many people are traveling. And please also factor in if you've got a coach traveling with you that we need to know that information as well. The same goes for minibuses and coaches. We may at times have more than one team on a coach because often that is the most cost effective way of using a coach. So it may be that there are multiple teams on the coach and you might need to leave earlier than had you gone by car. Please just bear with us. The cost of coaches is over £1,000 for most trips, and so therefore, if you're just one team of 11 people, we're probably not going to put you on a coach. If there's 3 or 4 teams going to the same university playing at approximately the same time, then we will obviously look at coach as a potential means of transport. But as I said before, please do not book your own minibus or coach travel. You will not get that cost back. You do need to come through us. So within the Students' Union, we do actually have 2 people carriers now. To be able to drive the people carrier, you do need to be a registered SU driver. To do that, you can liaise with Nicola, who is our reception manager, and the forms are available on the toolkit. So to be a registered driver, you will need to get a DVLA check code, which you can get online and it's free. Provide a copy of the front and back of your driving license, and you also need to have held a UK driving license for at least a year and be at least 20 years old. And there's also the potential opportunity for us to provide a MIDAS course, which would then provide you with the ability to be able to drive larger vehicles, such as the 14-seat minibuses. Back to Hannah.
Oh, thanks, Dom. Okay, so I'm just going to briefly sort of touch on match officials. The sort of process for booking match officials is different depending on the team, depending on the sport. So I'll run through briefly on the next slide what it is for sort of each sport. But essentially, if a captain is responsible for booking any officials, they need to ensure that the correct level official has been booked. So BUCS Appendix 5. So if you just type in Google or there's a URL link to it there, BUCS Appendix 5 explains the level of qualification that is required for each sport. So as you go up the sort of tiers, you are required to sort of have a higher level of official to officiate your games. If there are any issues, so if you are a captain that is responsible for appointing officials and you can't perhaps get an official of the right standard, if we get it in writing in agreement from the opposition that they're happy to play with a lower level official, then that's fine and that they can officiate the match. But we must get confirmation in writing from the opposition. So if this is the case in any situation, please just let us know with as much notice as possible that you've been able to find someone, they're not of the correct level, you can't find anyone of the correct level. Let me know. I can let the opposition know. They can either sort of agree or deny. I think Dom might be able to correct me, but I think it's 48 hours before we must let them know that 48 hours before that we must let them know if there are any issues with officials. Also on Appendix 5, if you have a look, there'll be some sort of criteria that state that the official must be neutral, and there's just a little definition of what neutral basically means there. So it should be taken to not a current student, not a member of staff, whether that's full-time or part-time, not a member of the team or club or athletic union or equivalent, and not and they can't be closely related to any member of the club. And then there's just a definition on a member of the club should be taken to be any coach, any player, any elected officer, or any team official. Please, 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 you must get written confirmation from your officials. This is just so we can prove that they've been booked. So, for instance, if you're in charge of booking futsal referees, you must get it in writing that they've agreed to do the game. So if they've agreed over the phone, I would then always just follow up with a little text just to say, just correct, you're happy to referee game, what time, the day, against who, just so we can provide evidence that they were booked. This is really, really important because if it is the case that perhaps we've turned round to an institution to say I'm really sorry we aren't able to get an official, or if they've let us down, so if they've let us down on the morning of the match, we need that evidence to show they were actually booked in the first place. So please do make sure if you're responsible for booking those officials that you do get confirmation in writing that they have been booked. Okay, so YesRef then. So for some sports, we use YesRef to appoint officials. Sports you can see are on the left-hand side there. So in those sports, we sort of use YesRef to pay. Some instances appoint, but it's sort of different depending on each sport. But those are the sports that we use to go through YesRef. I will communicate with captains, fixture secretaries, whoever it may be for each sport about what's going on with officials, and you should be aware of the process of appointing officials for your sport. If you're not, just get in touch because, for instance, we have some fixture secretaries that does them, some national governing bodies do them, so it's really, really different for each sport. So if you're unsure about the process of booking officials for your team, get in touch and we can have a conversation about it. These are just the sort of other sports that use officials, whether it's on YesRef or not. This is sort of the process for some of them. So for American football, BAFRA appoint all the officials, so we don't actually need to do anything. We don't need to worry about anything. BAFRA have all the information from BUCS Play. They do it. Basketball, so for the first teams, the coaches appoint. For the second and third teams, I communicate with a guy called Sean, who's fixture secretary. He appoints the refs, but not the table officials. Baseball, the captains appoint. Dodgeball, British Dodgeball sort that out. Football, again, we have a sort of a fixture secretary. His name's Ron. I communicate with him, and he appoints for all 8 football teams. Hockey is the sort of student elected fixture secretary. Lacrosse, the captains sort that one out. Netball, I appoint for yes ref for that one. Rugby, captains appoint. Volleyball, coaches, first team captains and first team captains appoint. And then for the second and third teams, a student elected fixture secretary appoint. And then for water polo, the captains sort that one out as well. I just seen a message in the chat that for archery, so for archery, you don't need to worry about appointing any officials. So they'll be run on one-off events that BUCS will organise, and BUCS will sort officials out for that. Okay, so the next slide is just about paying officials then. So essentially, Dom's briefly touched on this, but officials booked through YesRef and that are signed up to YesRef will be paid through the app after the match. Any official that isn't booked through YesRef will need to submit an invoice in order to get paid. They'll need to submit this to SU invoices by the Thursday morning. Payment runs take place every Wednesday. So they'll essentially say they've officiated your match on the Wednesday. They've then submitted their invoice by the Thursday. The payment run take place on the Friday. The following Wednesday, and the money will be in their account the Friday. So essentially, they get paid 9 days if they submit their invoice on time after officiating your fixture. If the invoice is submitted before this point, they should receive the funds within 5 working days. Okay, I'm just going to pass back over to Dom, who's going to go through the last little bit about BUCS events.
Okay, I promise you we are nearly done. So the next bit is about one-off events. So as well as the weekly league and cup fixtures, BUCS offer around 128 different events across the year, across 50 odd sports. So archery was one that was just mentioned just recently, but there are other things like the swimming championships, athletics championships. There's hundreds literally. So a one-off event such as surfing, lacrosse sixes, clay pigeon shooting, they typically are events that are standalone events and may take anywhere between 1 and 3 days. Sometimes they form part of a series of events. You might find that your event is part of BUCS Nationals, in which case they have the National Swimming Championships, the Karate Championships, the Judo Championships. They have badminton and indoor athletics. So it's usually held in Sheffield, and they are there's thousands of students that come together, a bit like a student Olympics, if you like. In terms of our policy on events, it is a little bit different to the BUCS League and Cup knockouts, where there are guaranteed BUCS points. For events, unfortunately, there is no guaranteed BUCS points available, and therefore we do not have any funding that will cover the costs of entry, travel, and accommodation for these events, unless you are somebody that achieves BUCS points. If you achieve BUCS points, then you will get your costs covered. It's part of our policy. But that said, if your club wants to enter into any of these events, you are more than welcome, and we will be able to we will process the entries. But you must note that you will be required to collect any income to cover the relevant costs. So how do you enter an individual event? So through the app, you'll have downloaded the BUCS Play app, search for your sport, find the relevant event, and then filter by the sport or community if needed. Once you've joined the community, there will then be an option within that community to be able to add the relevant event. So if it's the swimming championships, for instance, and you want to do the women's breaststroke, for instance, you'd go 50-meter breaststroke, say in this case, you would then go to the swimming section, go down to the relevant event entry, and then put your relevant entry information in. It's important to note that with a lot of the event entries, you will be required to provide evidence of maybe previous performances. If you don't fill those additional sections out, it is more than likely that your entry will not be approved, because often with the BUCS events, they are oversubscribed and BUCS will take out incomplete applications first. It may also be that in some cases there's a restriction on the number of people from each institution that are guaranteed an entry. So when you are submitting individual requests, if you know that you've got 4 people entering the same event, please can you let us know what order you would rank those individuals in. It helps us to be able to just make sure that we are accepting the ranking in the right order, and that your stronger individual is going to be accepted before the others. Otherwise, there's potential issues that happen. So with the event entry, there's a 2-stage approach. So the first stage is that the individual will need to themselves register a BUCS Play account and then add the relevant information and events that they would like to request to join. The second stage is that we will be required as the administrators to review any entries that have come in by the deadline, and then we have, usually it's 48 hours to approve or reject any entries that have come in. So as can be seen on here, there are various boxes. So we have, in this particular example, we have 2 people that have looked to enter this particular event. The first column will be their names of what they're registered as. The second column is the ranking. The third column is a box for guaranteed. And as I said, sometimes there are restrictions on how many can be guaranteed. And then the third box is non-guaranteed. And then subsequent boxes will be additional information that they will have put into their record. When we receive the applications and the deadlines pass, we will then go through and we will actively click on the relevant boxes, so the guaranteed, non-guaranteed, or reject, and save it. It is only after that we've done this that BUCS will receive this information, and then usually a couple of weeks before your competition, we will receive notification, and you'll be able to see it on the BUCS website what the provisional entries list has been approved or rejected. So just a bit more terminology. So the applied will be if your entry is not approved by the deadline, it will just stay as applied, and you will not be accepted into the event. Guaranteed, as I've said, we sometimes have a limited number of guaranteed entries that we can put in. So usually that will be your strongest individual. And then non-guaranteed is where the majority of people will sit. So BUCS will go through the they'll put in all the guaranteed. They might have 120 spaces, they might have 40 guaranteed, and then they'll work through the remaining entries until they have fulfilled their maximum quota of entries. And that's where the ranking is really important. If we try to enter you without a ranking, it will not accept your entry, and everyone's entries essentially will be rejected. So it's really important that we have a clear ranking. Sometimes we can put, if it's 2 people and they can't be split, we can put them both as one. But if there's only one guaranteed entry, we will have to choose who we're going to enter as the guaranteed. So after the student has applied to enter an event and we have approved the entry, there is one final step to confirm participation, and that is the BUCS approval. As I said, BUCS usually confirm entries at least 2 weeks prior to the championships. If you've not seen anything or you're concerned you've not heard anything, please let us know so we can follow up with BUCS on your behalf and find out what the current situation is. With some BUCS event entries, they offer two-stage entry approach. So if after the first stage of entries they haven't received their maximum quota or haven't fulfilled their maximum quota, they may offer a second chance for people, usually at a little bit of a higher price point, to be able to fulfill their entries. I would strongly recommend that you don't leave it to potentially the second stage, because sometimes that stage doesn't happen if they've fulfilled their maximum quota after the first stage. So and then if you are successful, you have been entered, we will receive an invoice from BUCS for the cost of your entry, and we will subsequently charge that across to your club. So please make sure that if you've got individual entries that are going to be coming from your club, that you have collected the relevant income from those individuals for the BUCS entry. And as I just said, stage 2 entries often they come at an increased fee of an additional 20%, and they're not guaranteed. So please try not to use a stage 2 entry system if you can. So we said about the additional information. That is something that you can edit as individuals. So when you go onto your BUCS Play profile, you should be able to edit your individual account through My Details. Sometimes for certain events, say the athletics, that might ask for your best time in the last 12 months. And that might ask for a link to your Power of 10 account, or your national governing body's rankings if they have one. So you can do all that by clicking on My Details in the BUCS tab. So another important thing to note with BUCS is if you have entered and you need to withdraw from the event, there is a withdrawal fee from BUCS, as well as a fine for no shows or failing to complete your entry. So please ensure that you are not just entering and then don't turn up because you potentially have got a fine coming your way. The fines are not cheap. I think they can be as much as £30. And obviously no one wants to be spending money on an event if you are not able to actually turn up. So don't enter unless you know for sure that you're going to be able to go to the competition. As soon as we've approved the entries, that essentially is us accepting entry and an invoice from BUCS on your behalf. If you do have an injury, for instance, it's still important that we let BUCS know in advance, because sometimes we can avoid the withdrawal fee if we've got proof that it's out of your control. So in summary, as we said earlier, all participants must be registered on BUCS Play and in a team. Team sheets must be completed on the app. Scores must be submitted by captains on the app immediately, and definitely by no later than 11 a.m. the next day. And captain's packs and any completed forms need to be returned to us by 11 o'clock the next working day. All fixture arrangements will always be agreed by us. If opposition do contact you, just direct them to their fixture administrators, and they will need to talk to us accordingly. If you have any questions, any issues, you can contact us on the BUCS email, or if it's something that you need an urgent response, please give us a call on our BUCS phone. If we don't answer, if it's during working hours, then obviously we're probably dealing with something else and we will come back to you. Please send us a message, WhatsApp us, and we will come back to you as soon as we can. We do have other things to do outside of work, so we will respond to you as soon as we can practically get back to you. But please don't leave things to the last minute. Please plan ahead. There's always things that happen that are unexpected, and we will try and help you as best as we possibly can. But that's a general summary of what you guys need to know. So BUCS Play also have some help guides on their app and on the website. So when you log into BUCS Play, there's help and support. There's a captain's training that BUCS deliver with some slides which may be helpful. And as I say, the copy of this presentation will be available for you on the toolkit and on Moodle as well. Yeah, so that's the end of the training. But before you go, we do require everybody to complete the Moodle quiz. So I don't know, Hannah, you able to put the link in the chat? Hannah's going to put the link of the Moodle quiz in the chat. The Moodle pass mark is 14 out of 17 questions, and we do require all of you to complete this. We will hold on the call for anyone who's maybe having problems getting on the quiz, or if anyone would like to ask a question, please feel free to raise your hand using the raise hand function, and we will go through any questions that anyone's got. But that's the end of the training. Thank you everyone for your time. Apologies, it's taken quite a long time, but there's a lot of information